So for the Steelers in 2022, they were ushering a brand new era. Big Ben Roethlisberger was out, and in came in a new quarterback by the name of, a Pittsburgh resident. He technically went to Pittsburgh University, the University of Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett. They were bringing in a rookie quarterback by the name of Kenny Pickett that they drafted, and they were basically biding their time, I guess. I don't know why. Until he was ready to go. As such, the Steelers, there were not a lot of expectations going into this season for them. It was just a matter of, when Kenny Pickett was going to start. So the Steelers actually started off pretty cold in the first half of the year as, like I said, they tried to buy time for whatever reason until Kenny Pickett was ready to start his first game. They started Mitch Trubisky. Yes, the MVP, the Nickelodeon Valuable Player, the inaugural one, by the way, for a couple of games until he got concussed. And then you had to insert Kenny Pickett in, and he didn't exactly have the greatest starts because he was playing playoff teams. But the team itself wasn't exactly perfect before he came in anyways. So they did actually manage to catch fire in the second half of the season, thanks to better flashes from both Kenny Pickett and breakout rookie receiver George Pickens. And then it also helped that your defense got back TJ Watt, who missed multiple games throughout the season. But unfortunately, all those early season losses ended up coming back to bite them a bit because they missed out on a playoff spot due to tiebreakers at the very end of the season. So they managed to keep their winning record, their streak of non-losing seasons alive still by going 9-8. So yes, for Mike Tomlin, that's something, but still, it was kind of like, is this really your standard? I think I said that. Is this really your standard of where you want to be in the NFL? Just winning, baby. So if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously you want to do more than that. And your top goal for 2023 is not only to make the playoffs with Kenny Pickett, but hope for a positive year from Kenny Pickett, your second-year quarterback. So to help out your quarterback, some of the things I mentioned in my season recap for the Pittsburgh Steelers was to upgrade the offense around Kenny Pickett, mainly at receiver because, you didn't really have a lot of options once they traded away Chase Claypool. So all you really had was George Pickens, their rookie receiver. And in the offensive line, it still was pretty poor, especially considering, that was one of the reasons why Ben Roethlisberger retired. I mean, not only because of his age, but the offensive line was pretty bad. And the offensive line in 2022 was still poor. They also could boost the interior of the defensive line. You had some interior defensive tackles in there. And then the corner spots in the secondary, could also use some work. Cameron Sutton was one of their top free agents, so they either had to re-sign him or just simply upgrade at both spots. So looking at some of their offseason moves in free agency, some people that they lost included was one of those top free agents that they had. Cameron Sutton went to the Detroit Lions. So, yeah, they definitely had to go and address the corner spot, whether it was here or in the draft. And they also lost linebacker Devin Bush to the Seattle Seahawks. But fortunately for them, I guess, he didn't really pan out, but hopefully he does on his new team. Safety Terrell Edmonds went to the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, not really too much of a loss there. A couple of re-signings. Defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi. Trying to get my pronunciation there. And then they also re-signed, for whatever reason, third-string quarterback Mason Rudolph. Probably a good dude over there, I guess. But, yeah, we've seen the times that Mason Rudolph started as a quarterback for Pittsburgh. Yeah, not good. Free agents. Guard Isaac Seumalo came over from the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a good guard there. Just wasn't able to get a lot of playing time. And then corner Patrick Peterson from the Minnesota Vikings came over. A curious one there, but he's still good despite his age. Linebacker Cole Holcomb from the Washington Commanders. And then the draft is where they did their dirty work. They got a left tackle by the name of Broderick Jones from Georgia. So that was one of their top prospects that they were really looking at. And now they have protection for Kenny Pickett on at least the left side. Corner Joey Porter Jr. from Penn State. So they got what could be one of the top corners in the league. Hopefully he pans out. I know it's kind of bold to say that now, but we will see. They also addressed the interior defensive line by drafting Keanu Benton from Wisconsin, a nose tackle. And they addressed the tight end position too by getting Darnell Washington from Georgia. So overall, when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers in their offseason, I'd say they had a pretty strong draft. They mainly did their dirty work in the draft, and it should help Kenny Pickett develop pretty nicely, hopefully. Now it's pretty much on Kenny Pickett to pick it up and see if he can progress in a positive manner. So the Steelers did exactly what they needed to do in this offseason. Go and get Kenny Pickett some help, whether it's at receiver, the offensive line. They didn't do so much at receiver, but they did give Kenny Pickett more protection, which is kind of important. Which is because you don't want your quarterback to get injured. Keep in mind, Kenny Pickett got concussed on, I think it was like 2 different occasions last year. And you don't want that to happen to your quarterback that early. He's only a rookie, keep in mind. So he's still pretty young. You don't want that to happen so early. So getting Broderick Jones was essential because you at least protect part of your offensive line. Now, obviously, you want to protect the entirety of your offensive line because now Kenny Pickett needs to have protection when on the blind side to get the ball out. So that remains to be seen. They also strengthened their defense too, especially in the secondary. Getting Joey Porter Jr. was a really good pick for them. And then Corey Trice, I think both of them could be the keys that the Steelers need at corner because they desperately need them. They were getting torched at that position. So looking at some of their potential key games, in 2023, the very first game, hosting the San Francisco 49ers, whoever will be at quarterback for that team. Let's see how Kenny Pickett does against one of the top defenses in the NFL from last year. And then a couple of division games early on in the season. You host the Cleveland Browns the very next week against Deshaun Watson. And then a couple weeks later, you host the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson in that strong, on paper at least, passing attack. How will that defense fare? And how will Kenny Pickett fare against a pretty solid defense? And then you host the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 8. Trevor Lawrence and the all-elite Jaguars. And then a pretty big division game in Week 12. You travel to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals and Joe Burrow. That's a pretty big division game. I mean, took them head on pretty hard in last year. They could certainly do so again. Mike Tomlin and those Steelers play pretty tough, regardless of the record. So, obviously, the question centers around Kenny Pickett in my big questions for 2023. How is he going to look? Because I thought he looked solid. He looked solid in his rookie year, despite not having a lot of protection. He got concussed twice, and he didn't really have a spectacular group. All he pretty much had was George Pickens, Najee Harris, and a couple other not so known receivers. But the Steelers, I think they took this offseason pretty seriously, at least in my eyes. I don't know about actual Steelers fans, but let me know. I would like to know if they actually did. They at least got Kenny Pickett some help on the offensive line, so they gave him better protection. I just wish they got some more help at receiver. They got him a tight end though, so now it's on Kenny Pickett to show some stronger development this year. And it'll be a little bit understandable if George Pickens is the only guy he throws to, because he doesn't really have a second receiver. But I would like to see some positive momentum still from Kenny Pickett going into year 2. So overall, there are some tough games for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially within your division. And then you have the Jaguars, and who knows, there might be some other trap games that they might fall into. And of course, you have the very first game against the 49ers. But for the Steelers, I mean, it honestly doesn't look that. It's like a misbagged schedule. And of course, you can't louse up any games that are winnable. So it's going to be an interesting way of thinking of how they could actually win. Like where they stand. I think they have a good shot of making the playoffs. So maybe 10-7, 10-7. There could be a tie between the Browns, the Steelers, and potentially even the Ravens. So this could be a really interesting scenario. So yeah, I think the Steelers could really make a crack at double-digit wins this coming season, just as long as Kenny Pickett progresses along nicely in year 2.